Hi there. You're probably here because, like me, you want to show up at demonstrations prepared, empowered, and ready to safely exercise your First Amendment right to assemble. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to help you protest safely at any rally by educating you on your constitutional rights and the risk you may face when confronting specific police departments. Today, I'm discussing your right to protest at the presidential inauguration in Washington, D.C. on January 20th and 21st, 2017. Now, as the federal capital, Washington, D.C. is host to dozens of law enforcement agencies. The location of your protest will determine which agency's jurisdiction you're under. For example, when you're on the streets of D.C., you'll be under local jurisdiction and policed by the Metropolitan Police Department, or MPD. When demonstrating at a federal monument or any park or green space downtown, you're subject to the U.S. Park Police, which is a federal agency. For a comprehensive list of law enforcement agencies in D.C. and how to recognize them based on their uniform, please click the link below to access the Protester Resource Guide. Now, it's worth noting that most of the protests planned for this weekend have a peaceful agenda, and the police in D.C. generally have a hands-off approach to peaceful protesters. That said, there's no predicting how the dynamics of a large political rally will unfold, so let's dive into your rights and what to expect if you encounter the police. This section is divided into 3 parts, discussing what your rights are. First, when you're confronted, questioned, or searched by police. Second, if you hear MPD or Park Police issue a warning. And third, during an arrest. First, in the event you are confronted by police, ask, "Am I free to leave?" If the officer says yes, then walk away calmly. If the officer says no, ask, "Am I under arrest?" If you're not, again, walk away. If you are under arrest, ask, "For what crime?" I'll cover more on how to engage with police during an arrest in a few moments. Next, remember that you are never required to speak to police. If, during this encounter, you are questioned by police, you always have the right to remain silent. Exercise this right by saying, "I wish to remain silent." If you are stopped by police and the officer suspects you have a weapon, you can be pat down or frisked. Don't physically interfere with this pat down, but know that you always have the right to refuse consent to a further search of yourself or your belongings. Exercise this right by saying, "I do not consent to this search." Finally, take mental note of what witnesses are present during the confrontation and try to remember details of the encounter. A note for non-citizens. Regardless of your immigration status, you have the constitutional right to remain silent. You are not required to discuss your immigration or citizenship status with any law enforcement official, and you do not have to answer questions about your birthplace, citizenship, or how you entered the country. For more information, click the link below, which contains important resources for non-citizens. On to the second point, how MPD and Park Police handle protesters before placing them under arrest. Before issuing an arrest, police should give you 3 loud and clear warnings that you are violating a law, and they are supposed to give you plenty of time to comply with their orders before arresting you. If after 3 warnings you still don't comply, you can be arrested. Please note that there are a few exceptions to this rule. In cases of property destruction, trespassing, perceived violence, or escalating violence, police are not required to issue any warning before making an arrest. Also, keep in mind that cops may lie or follow different protocol based on who they're dealing with. When in doubt, if you want to avoid arrest, comply with the officer's orders. The takeaway here is that it's important to always stay alert. Pay attention to the shifting dynamic between the crowd and police, be aware of police movement and the way groups of protesters are entering or leaving an area, and always listen to any orders you hear coming from law enforcement officials. Finally, let's discuss what to do in the case of an arrest. As an initial point, I want to remind you that the police are allowed to lie, and often do, so when in doubt about how to act, remain silent until you are alone with your lawyer. Now, once you're placed under arrest, do not resist or struggle. Assault on a police officer is a serious charge and is often used against people for behavior like wiggling while handcuffed. Next, once you've been arrested, the police can search you or your belongings without your consent. For this reason, avoid carrying anything incriminating with you to the protest. Moving on to your rights. Once you've been arrested, you have the right to remain silent and the right to an attorney. To exercise these rights, say, "I am going to remain silent. I want an attorney." Once you've exercised these rights, do not talk to anyone about the arrest situation, including fellow protesters. Finally, do not lie about your name or address. Another point for non-citizens. Remember that you always have the right to remain silent. If arrested, do not discuss your immigration status with your arresting officer or any immigration officer that may visit you. Do not answer questions or sign any document before speaking with an attorney. As a side note, here are a few issues that have come up for me personally while protesting at political rallies. First, on masks. You are allowed to wear one so long as it's not worn while you're committing a crime or to avoid being identified while participating in illegal activity. Second, you have the right to photograph or take video of anything in plain view while you are lawfully present in a public space. This includes video of the police, so long as your recording doesn't interfere with their legitimate law enforcement operations. If at any point while protesting you feel as though your rights have been violated, remember that you will not be able to resolve this issue on the spot. Instead, write down everything you remember, including officers' names and badge numbers, get contact information for witnesses, and if you're injured, take photographs of your injuries after you've received medical attention. Before signing out, I want to note that in the description for this video, I've included a link to a protester resource guide. This document contains a comprehensive outline of your rights, as well as a source list, resource guide, and list of essential items to bring with you to this protest. Thanks so much for listening. Please share this audio with anyone you know attending any of the inaugural protests in Washington, D.C. using the hashtag #ActivateTheResistance. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at activatetheresistance@gmail.com. That's it. Resist, persist, and stay safe, Washington.